Alrighty, let's get started. Our first figure drawing set, shall we? Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds. Google has decided to be uncooperative today. Alexa, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds.
20 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh,
and that's starting now.
30 seconds, starting now.
Alexa, stop timer. Alexa, stop.
20 minutes and 30 seconds timer canceled.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop. Thank you. Alright, I'll be right back. You guys can start in this pose. I'm gonna be grabbing some water real quick. Get back to it. Alright, sitting back down, drawing desk. So what we're covering today is we're continuing what we've been doing from last session, which is figure drawing in time and space, but today we're going to be combining three things into what we've been doing a little bit more. One of them is exaggeration. That's the big one. We're going to be looking for opportunities to exaggerate the poses and stuff for this warm-up set. For this warm-up set, don't be too concerned with that, but just start to be thinking a little bit about how you might start exaggerating the poses and stuff. But exaggeration is a big one, but I want to kind of skew it. Oh. What do you mean no stream to the Discord? Oh, yeah, that's right. I gotta do that too. Sorry, I'm all discombobulated because I'm also doing a simul stream with Astropug in there we go. Okay, I'm also doing a simul stream with Astropug. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. So I'm also streaming in the Discord as well. Alright, so just get loosened up and just get warmed up right now. A lot of what I've been practicing lately is a shorthand figure puppet that like a lot of Disney animators often use. Just this kind of this puppet with like wire limbs almost, and kind of a simplified torso body. I'm going to use it to start my warm-up set, but there's some other things I have in mind that I'm going to be using once we get beyond the warm-up set. I'm a little discombobulated at the moment because I've had to run through a bunch of technical hurdles before and switch gears before I get started here. It's going to take me a little bit moment to settle in. But I've been getting a lot of good practice in today, and so I've got good momentum going. So I'm looking forward to what we're going to be doing tonight. So a lot of what I want you guys looking for, I want you looking for like ways to think about the gesture that you're drawing three-dimensionally and fourth-dimensionally. And I want you to look for opportunities to exaggerate the pose to change the pose beyond what you're seeing up there, maybe even change the position of the pose altogether to like a different angle, or push the limbs in a direction that's going beyond what you're seeing. And we'll be getting into that more as I get warmed up in tune with how I'm going to be doing this tonight. So here's a little buddy, the Starman again. I'm just going to do a couple quick sketches of him. The Starman is, of course, a shorthand storyboard artist device for just doing quick little gestural human figures on rough storyboards and stuff. Just gonna throw a couple of those down just for the heck of it. So here's a good pose that's a great example of this one's a great like pose that you could potentially exaggerate pretty drastically. Like, let's see here. What you want to think of when you're doing an exaggeration is you want to think of what you're trying to say with the pose first off. Like, what's your emotional reaction to the pose? How would you want to modify it to say something else that's a little bit different than maybe what you're actually seeing right up there? Like, how could you play off this into another idea? Or what's the idea that you get on your first gut reaction to this? What do you mean, no camera, no? Oh. For a moment I was wondering that if we had like some kind of a technical issue with a camera or something. But no, you meant like that's what the guy's saying to you. Well, then you can run with that. We'll be getting more into a little bit of how to push for that today. So I'm going to show you guys what I did last night that is in the vein of what we're going to be practicing today. I am still getting warmed up. I'll show you that during the break and at the start of the next set. So I'll be doing kind of a demo / set to explain what we're going to be covering tonight. This actually isn't too far off from the pose that's on screen right here. So I'm gonna actually play off of the sketch that I made to kind of like pretend that this is also a similar pose or something. Unintentionally, I just stumbled into an example of what you can do with exaggeration here. You can change the angle of the pose. You can do some pretty drastic exaggerations. You could change the angle. You can change the angle of the pose. You could like, you could take something like this and like go like really, really wild with it. Like, make his head itty bitty up there. Make his arm. This leg up here, pushed all the way up there. Get something really nutty in. And that could be the basis for like a really exaggerated caricatured figure or something. We'll be getting more in depth on this as we go further along. But here, let me show you a little bit of what well, this is something I was doing earlier today. These are invented figures. This is kind of vibing with this, with some of the stuff that I was practicing in prep for this class. Let's see here. Let me find the sheet that has the. Oh, here we go. This is from practice from last night. These aren't terribly exaggerated, but there is some exaggeration in them. But when I talk about exaggeration, I'm talking about stuff like this. Like this is really a lot more pushed and extreme and kind of abstract, cartoony. Sometimes you can play with them. Like this one, I was trying to play with an idea, but it didn't quite work. That got kind of weird. So I was trying to play with like a quick freehand attempt at like pushing the visual angle of the pose into a fisheye. You can see like playing with expression, intent, exaggeration of action. Trying to create little scenes out of the pose and stuff, pushing like the line of action and stretch and so on. These ones are a lot more contained, but they are exaggerated. They're exaggerated in that they kind of play off the model and they make more kind of like an acting pose out of the poses she was taking. So they're a little bit more contained. They're not as extreme, but there is exaggeration in them. Anyway, so let's see here. Bring this back here, and so I only have 50 seconds to do this guy, but that's okay. What reminds you of a Naruto run a little bit? Just curious. The last one? Yeah, kind of. What's happening there is that's a volleyball player who's like who's changing position and trying to dive forward to like then their next move is they're going to bring their arms forward to kind of like defend the ball or something, defend against the ball or whatever. Probably have to close that window soon. Getting traffic noises now. I needed to open the window because it was really roasting hot in here. I'm going to be getting air conditioners installed in this room pretty soon, thankfully, so. Not sure I was going with this guy, but this is fun. Here, one second. That window. won't get too roasting hot again. All right, I've got to kind of reorient myself with what we've been practicing for the last week. So like, one of the things that we've been covering is we've been trying to get like more depth cues in our drawings. That means like wrapping lines over the form that are kind of going to like a ghosted vanishing point of some kind. Like you want to think in terms of like your character is going to the lines across your character are going to some kind of invisible vanishing point. These are freehand perspectives, so that they're not going to be accurate perspective, but you want to have like this kind of like this matrix in your head that reads and sees things three-dimensionally, so you can say, huh, that kind of looks 3D-ish, the way I drew that. And you get there by just like practicing and like wrapping your head around that stuff and activating the spatial awareness part of your brain doing these. This is a great opportunity for exaggeration, I would say. Let's see what I can do here. Maybe push her elbow really big to the foreground or something. This, maybe bring it up a bit more. Bring it up and make it big. I think I need more space to do this. But let's see here. Make this leg a little, this calf and this leg a little small. Let's maybe push this leg up more than what's up there. What's pretty fun about exaggeration is like, when you exaggerate a pose, it sometimes winds up looking more like the actual thing you're trying to draw than if you just copied the pose straight up. Because like you're playing with the underlying forces of the pose. And what the pose is actually doing, whereas as opposed to just replicating the image. You're playing with the underlying forces or the ideas. The idea behind the pose. And you're free to get messy with it too. Sometimes you're gonna get clean, sometimes you're gonna get messy. Like you should give yourself permission to make productive scribbles. Not chicken scratches, but like scribbles where you're really like feeling out the line of action and stuff and feeling out the rhythm of the pose. Here in this pose right here, we actually have like kind of a dimensional framing device here with that windowsill these guys are sitting on. You want to look for like depth cues and in your drawings. So remember like the core of what you're trying to exercise by doing these is basically gesture drawing in 3D. Like when you make these lines, they are not flat lines, and you shouldn't be thinking of them as flat lines. These are things that are traveling through 3D space. These wiry kind of lines that you're drawing here. So you want to think about what direction stuff is going in. Like I'm thinking about this thigh is going forward here, for example. And we got these wrapping lines wrapping over the form, wrapping over back here. I'm kind of guesstimating there's like the horizon line is, yeah, we can actually converge the horizon line is about here. Whereas this guy's body is probably like a little bit curved because of how he's sitting. Right there, he's got this straight. Right there. I'm tilting his head back more than the pose was, because I felt like it. But I can add a little grid right there to the windowsill. Put like a grid down here. There we go. That was a really fun little study. I'm just going to darken in that shoe and kind of the direction on the floor that it was inhabiting, just for fun. So this sheet is already looking really fun. I'm gonna go to a new page. How many? Okay, Google. How much time left on timer?
24 seconds left.
Oh, lovely. Okay. Well, good timing. That's a good page then. And back to this. This pose is actually overtime, so let's pause it here because I maybe want to start the next set with this pose. But you can draw it if you like. Okay, Google, stop. Okay, so let's review. So we're gonna touch base again with what we've been doing for the last week. Remember, we are doing gesture drawing in 3D space and in 4D space. When we're thinking about these three-dimensionally, that means we're looking for opportunities to add stuff like floor grids, wall grids, ceiling grids sometimes, not all the time. But we're looking for also any kind of opportunity to add depth cues to the gesture. For example, wrapping lines over the form that are going off towards the vanishing point. That also means that that also means other stuff like, let's see here, trying to correlate the position of the limbs to each other as if there's kind of an invisible jump rope between the joints or between the limbs, so you can think about them in terms of how they relate to each other on the body in 3D space. You don't necessarily have to draw that out every time, but you want to think in those terms because that helps kind of unify the figure in 3D space, and you can think about one limb in relation to another. You can also use them you can use something like it in substitute of a floor grid. I've got some examples on, one sec. On this sheet right here, on these floor right here that I've added. So there is also some depth cues and stuff this. This is going down here at more of a vanishing point angle than this, which is going straight up. And I kind of assume that the horizon line is probably somewhere around here. Let's see here. This is a giant ass file. I did a lot of work on this. Okay, so some other ones in here. Yeah. You can see right here I did the jump rope a little bit between the feet, correlating the positions of the feet on the floor to each other there. Did it here a little bit too, and there. And I can kind of use that to kind of figure out the position of the stool. You can draw those out when you feel like it, when you feel you need it. But eventually you get kind of used to seeing them. Or sort of ghosting them in or whatever. Some shitty head drawings there in the mix there. Sorry about that. But yeah, let's see. But yeah, these guys that I did, these are figure invention puppets that I did with a Disney a puppet that's often used by Disney animators for roughing in basic figure figure animation. This thing is really, really flexible, and it is based on Glenn Vilppu's figure drawing manual. If you've ever picked that book up, it's a book that I strongly recommend. I think it's out of print right now for some reason, which is a shame, but because it's normally a really commonly available book that's $20 or something. But yeah, this is basically the Disney figurative puppet shorthand for the figure is basically Glenn Vilppu's approach to figure drawing, except maybe a little bit more stylized. see some other warm-up stuff I was doing. Let's see if there's anything else in there to talk about. Okay, Google, set timer for 3 minutes.
3 minutes, starting now.
We'll give it about 3 minutes before we come back from our break. I'm gonna grab another sip of water, I think. Yeah, I did like a lot of little fun drawing before about somebody's teacher who was talking about who they were talking about in class. And this is something for a character that I'm sketching ideas for. Okay, here we go. So this is an example of thinking about a pose fourth dimensionally. Right here. These are some thumbnails. This is a thumbnail demo I did earlier today in Ethan Becker's Discord to kind of demonstrate for for an aspiring animator how to do thumbnail planning for your poses for animation. And this also applies to the figure drawing stuff we're doing tonight. We're going to be taking some opportunities to do action studies and think about the before and after of a pose. We're not going to go into huge depth into the specific mechanics also of weight and inertia, but I'm going to be talking about them in relation to like the action studies and stuff, and to how like the figures balance. Like you want to try to get a sense that the figure is being affected by gravity, or it's being affected by some kind of inertial force that's running through it, that's causing the action to occur, that's like running and rippling up through the figure. Like for example, right here, I had a starting pose here, and this is the end pose here. And I ran through this and like made notes about like what I would probably want to, like how they would go through the pose. Like this character would go up a little ways, and like they would dip down a bit and step forward with this leg. And they would dip down a little ways, and they would lead with their hips inward like this, and they have like kind of a wave ripple motion of their body as this arm goes out and forward in front of them, for example. Yeah, I might be able to do an example of fourth dimensional thinking using this pose, because there might be like because like you can take any pose that you get and start thinking fourth dimensionally about it. You just have to start. Okay, Google, stop. You just have to start thinking about where the pose was and where the pose will be. Or what possibilities. You can also think, for lack of a better term, fifth dimensionally, like, and think about multiple ways, multiple paths that this pose could go in, like multiple, almost like a choose your own adventure of different possibilities for the pose. So we're gonna get back to another 20-minute set. Cool, very nice. Good starter. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds.
20 minutes and 30 seconds. And we're starting now.
Good. Oh, also I forgot to say, I'm probably gonna bug out like about a little bit earlier than the normal 3-hour set tonight, because I've got a play date with some game devs at 8 p.m. So we'll be at this for another 6 p.m. now. Yeah, we'll be at this for another 2 hours. Cool. Plenty of time to get lots of drawing in. And if you like, maybe I can actually like leave Astropug or something running in my stream if you want to get some more figure mileage in, and I'll have Astropug running some figure poses or something for you in my personal Discord. All right, so actually no, I want to use this guy to think fourth dimensionally about this pose here. Let me just get like a quick gestural exaggeration about what he's doing here. Let's record it as quickly as possible. I'm doing my own version of like an idea of the pose, so it doesn't have to be completely accurate to what's happening there. But let's see, like, there's a myriad of ways I could start like breaking down thinking fourth dimensionally about a pose like this. But I'm going to touch on like something small and then before I move on. So shrink this guy down. Down even more, I think. I'll kind of use a little bit of an indication of his shadow to serve as my 3D grounding there. But let's see. So we got this pose here. I'm not going to draw the current pose on. I'm going to skip drawing the pose that's on screen right now and spend this 2 minutes thinking about what would be the pose before this one. So I can start making notes, thinking about what he's doing. So I'm thinking this arm would probably hook around here. So when he was coming down, he probably overshoots a bit. That is, like, he probably, before he wound up in this pose, he probably went forward a little bit further. He probably went forward a little further. He probably came down something like with his arm kind of pulled back in kind of like a blade sort of thing. His back arm kind of in like a blade pose or something. Like something. Like that. Following like the flow of his body. As with that other pose that I was showing with like the ballet pose, the invented ballet pose. That other example. This guy's probably leading with his hips, because that's where the power from this strike would come from. Either he's coming down like that, or he's like advancing forward from like a more kind of a crouched combat stance or something. Something maybe more like this, but more like upright, I would want to say. More like this. Maybe this arm is a little bit more forward, because he's gonna push this side of his body out more. So maybe he started in a pose something like this. Then he like lifted off this leg here. Did like something like this. He like rears up. Lifts his foot off the ground. Puts power into that blow. Then strikes forward. But he does it like kind of a hooking motion. So it's like a blade almost. Shoot. That. That's after he does like a lead-in strike. Zipping down. And he overshoots there. And he settles back into that pose right there. It's more like this, actually. More like up like that. In hindsight, he would probably be at a different angle for that. Like So I want to play with that more. But anyway, that's like an example of how you can start breaking down a pose. Start thinking about it fourth dimensionally. And once you kind of have like a little bit of a sense of like some shorthand of that, like you can start playing with the pose that's up there and say, I think I'm going to draw what happens later. Now that I'm starting kind of attuned to thinking about what's happening with the pose. This is an incredibly stylized pose. And it is full of 3D depth cues. Like, we have a hand that's getting larger towards the camera, so I'm going to exaggerate that even more. Right here, at the border of the page. We have his feet appear to be getting smaller as they recede down below the body. His upper body is larger because it's closer on this kind of gestural axis of perspective here. There's a depth cue on front of his face. The eye line and the tilt of the shoulders and the tilt of the hips are also, and the bottom of the rib cage are also really good for finding depth cues in a pose. Anyway, this is kind of a really dirty, rough and dirty pose where I'm just kind of making really crude notes about these depth cues and stuff. So like, this is not, mind you, like when you do these are not supposed to be good drawings. They're supposed to be drawings where you try to understand something. Oh wow, there's an actual drawing there. Okay, this would be an opportunity to kind of vibe with the line of action that was created by this artist. Maybe do it a little bit more cleanly than messy. So this artist already had this stuff figured out. Although you can get messy if you like. I'm going to take an opportunity to draw a little bit cleaner. So even though this is kind of like a profile view and stuff, there are depth cues in this. That hand back there is smaller. This leg back here is darker because it's back behind him, behind the other, behind the body, in the plane there. The shadow right here is on a plane that is separate from this foot right here, which is actually below here. This foot is coming off the ground, but it's still below this foot because there is a invisible floor grid that you can map that out on. So this heel would be further down there. I don't know if there's enough time to really do her, but look at that depth cue here, and look at that. See that? There is perspective right there on that briefcase and on the top of that gun. So even in this very heavily stylized, almost like hieroglyphic line of action pose that we're seeing here, there's still depth cues. But look, there's a depth cue there with the lines wrapping over the face, lines wrapping over the chest, the hips. This guy is curving back in space here, but we can see that there's lines that curve over his body too. Let's put that guy down over there. So I threw some drawings like that into this mix too, so that we have basically like examples of like how to apply this stuff. So it gives us an opportunity to kind of detour and reorient and recognize like why we're doing this here every so often in these sets. Check this out. If you wanted like if you wanted to cheat, well, not really cheat, but you basically have like a cheat right there of like a depth cue of that circle on the ground, which you can use to correlate the limbs together. I'm a little tired today, so I'm kind of defaulting a little bit more than I should be to some of my some of the main stuff that I've been practicing lately. But if I were really trying to do this exactly as the way I intend this evening, then these guys would be looking more like cartoon characters than line of action studies. But that's okay. As I start grooving into this, we might start seeing some more of that towards the end of this. Towards the end of this session.
Yeah, that man on the last rep got a knockout, probably.
Yeah, probably.
He got a kick on the behind the ear. He lost balance, a lot of balance.
Oh, that actually happened?
Yeah, in the last
well,
reference,
good. I mean,
that
if you know that like from a sports event where that actually were, and you know what the effects of that were, that's something that can inform how you do the drawing study of it. Because you know just how damaging that kick was, you can maybe like really kind of emphasize that or play off of that somehow. Or do something stupid and silly, like his ear flies off or something. It's just a little bit tasteless. I mean, the dude just lost hearing in his ear. But, I mean, if you want to do that, go ahead. Rest in peace, Kobe. This is Kobe. I'm just gonna draw the floor. He's flying way high off the floor grid. So maybe his floor shadow is like way down here. How about that? It's already looking like a nice page. Like as you start getting more in tune with rhythm and gesture, like your pages will also start, your page compositions doing these drawing studies will start to look a lot more fun. So I've drawn this couple before. I say couple, but that's definitely not what's happening there. So I don't know if this was staged or not. This looks like it might have been staged. It probably was staged because it looks very kind of set up, but they were doing it. They did it in public. However, they did it. But it would be really funny if this is like an actual like robber or someone who, or a creep who just got kicked in the balls and got captured on camera. But it looks like it was like staged for like a self-defense example or something.
Yeah, you can tell it's fake because their center of gravity is still perfect.
One thing I'm probably going to have us do is I'm probably going to slow the timer to around 5 minutes for the next set, because that'll give us enough time, either 5 minutes or 3 minutes, something like that, for the next set, because that'll give us time to really pay a lot closer attention to exaggeration and weight. We do kind of have to race through these twos. That's okay. This is just the second set tonight. The second set is basically warm-up part 2 of these kinds of things. So I'm going to maybe try playing with this really silly exaggeration here. Something that's kind of gets in the realm of like Coraline's other mother level of exaggeration or something. Speaking of Coraline, guess what we did in my Discord? We checked out some Neil Gaiman lectures. Neil Gaiman, of course, the creator of Coraline, or the novel Coraline. The film was adapted by Henry Selick, and Neil Gaiman really actually enjoyed how Henry Selick actually added some additional stuff. It was actually kind of missing in the book. Like there was Wybie wasn't in the book originally. He rather liked that, and there was some other aspects to the story that were slightly modified, that were an improvement. But the overall thrust of the story, which made the story strong in the first place, Neil talked about that, and it was really fascinating to hear. He actually had a story about like when he was trying to figure out what Coraline was about. Somewhere around that time, he jumped right into a wasp nest when he was out on a walk with his children, and he shouted at his children to stay away, and like got him to like head up over the hill while he had to stand in place to keep the wasps from like going after them too. And he like waited until they were like over the top of the hill, and they and then he like bolted up after them and stuff. And so he came home and he had like 38 wasp stings or something like that in the tub when they checked him later after all that. Oof. But when that happened, he wasn't scared. He was like in the moment, and he just had to like act and react. Like he wasn't scared. He just kind of was reacting to what was going on and stuff as it was happening. But later on, he found out, oh shit, my glasses, my prescription glasses or whatever, which my expensive prescription glasses that are the only one of those glasses that I'm going to be able to get out here. I have to go back and get them, or I'm not going to be able to read anything for a while. So he pondered having to go back to the wasp's nest to retrieve his glasses that he dropped. And he had this huge rising sense of fear in him. And that moment kind of really stuck with him and made him use that in Coraline. Like it wasn't scary when Coraline had to when Coraline initially escaped the other mother. But when the other mother kidnapped Coraline's parents and she had to go back to face the other mother to get them back, that was when it was really scary for her. And so he used that rhythm in the book. And he played with and he realized that bravery doesn't mean you're not scared. Bravery means you're scared, but you still do the right thing. Okay, Google, stop. Let's do this last pose a little bit. Nothing too huge. We vibing.
I'm trying to do the exercise of thinking fourth dimensionally, like what happened before this pose. But
Yeah.
I had a lot of difficulty with the last.
If you're having a huge amount of difficulty with it, then don't sweat it. Then just concentrate on like trying to capture the frozen moment. But the reason why you do if you try to think fourth dimensionally about the pose, is because it can kind of help you feel and understand the physicality of what's happening in that moment. Like you can kind of get a sense of like where the kick is coming from, for example, in a kick pose, or like where the thrust of the body is headed when the body's leaning forward and jumping or running or something, or where the hips shifted weight between poses or something. Oh, also, I wanted to point out I have some inspirational material on the upper right there with Samurai Champloo, because there were some clips that one of my class regulars posted.
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah, that was you. Thank you, Gus. Yeah, these Samurai Champloo clips from Sakugaburu. You can see what we were talking about in text chat a little bit earlier. There's some really good poses in this. Like, actually, we'll take a look at some of the Samurai Champloo. Okay, Google, set timer 5 minutes.
5 minutes, and we're starting now.
Look at that. So one of the many concepts that I've been like going over here is the idea of thinking of the pose as a singular unit, and you can definitely see that with Jin here. Like, if you like, you could basically put like a flat blank shape over the top of his entire body and like get like this kind of triangles and masses of stuff, or like you can basically describe his entire pose as like a single triangle here, like that. It goes from this kind of like placid triangle to this angular thrusting forward triangle. Similar idea here. You can see like this kind of triangle A pose here that he's in. He gets up. And now it's kind of this thrust up over here. Still like centered and stuff, but it's like kind of favored over here because that's where the thrust is happening into the camera. You can see how like his overall pose shape changes. Like, okay, let's think of his pose as being like a triangle. There's a triangle like right here, kind of going between his limbs. And when he sheaths his sword, then it turns into more kind of like a straight up and down shape than a straight up triangle. See if there's anything in here. It's a lot of very wild posing, but even with him, like, that all applies here. Like, look at that. You can see a triangle right there. Google triangle unifying shape there. Do you see the triangle there that I'm talking about for this pose? And the big thrust of it is happening with the heel down there. But that's like there's like this triangle shape that you can unify the pose with right there.
Yeah, you can see that triangles are a lot less stable, it seems.
Yeah, because these guys are doing lots of crazy action and there's lots of thrust to their move. There's a pointy end of a triangle that's usually going somewhere. But there are calm triangles. There's calm and balanced triangles, like a placid pyramid, you know. But there's also boxes, and there's circles, and there's also intersecting shapes. Sometimes, like you can see a triangle here. That's a really awesome pose right there. But yeah, like I mean, look at that. Check this out. Depth cues. He's kind of in an isometric perspective here. You can see his feet. Okay, so his feet are planted on a flat plane here, perfectly flat plane here. But then like there's still depth cues and stuff like this back leg is dark, and it's turned away from us, so it's not as wide as this foot, which is pointed out that way. So this foot is foreshortened, pointing away from us in this direction slightly. No, I'm sorry, I misread it. This leg, it's pointing at us. It's in shadow here. So it's bigger, actually. It's bigger than this one right here. I misread this thing. I got kind of thrown off by this little stuff that was around the leg there. But yeah, okay, so his hips are pointed, the front of his hips are pointed out this way towards us, facing us. His upper torso is twisted away from us. And so we get like the tilt angle of his shoulders about here, I want to say. And reinforcing that is, you can see how, like, if you... remember I was talking about with the jump rope? So you can use that to correlate the limbs to each other. Well, you can actually see that with the fabric on his character design here, on the back of his clothes that are whipping up here. Like, you can see how the limbs correlate to each other three-dimensionally with that. And also, as with the other depth cues, like that arm is turning away from us, so it's got rings that are on it that are turning away from us on his forearms. And it's smaller than this, which is turned towards us. You can see the underside plane of his palm. Okay, Google, stop. But yeah, there's like depth and directional cues all over him. And you want to vibe with these. Look at how crazy exaggerated. Like even as things get distorted, there's still telegraphs about like what direction things are and stuff. And like sometimes you can really break the rules. I mean, look how broken and weird and bizarre that looks, but it works because it's but this is a great pose. They actually hold on this pose here. They're proud of this pose right there. They're proud of how crazy and exaggerated this pose is, so they showcase this pose in the intro. Like, this is how wild he can get in this posing. Like this, the intro to the show is almost kind of like an ethos for their animation styles, basically. Yeah, I mean, like, that's a great example of extreme exaggeration right there, of some of what we're going to be trying to, you know, shoot for a little bit this evening. Can I? Not sure if I can loop this. I was worried about playing like the Champloo opening because of, you know, getting copyright boinked, but maybe I can get away with it using the Sakugaburu clips that I had open here. I'm gonna put Mugen's. I'm gonna put Mugen's loop in the intro up there, I think. I wish there was a. Yeah, there's none of them that show like the entire intro. Let's see if I can find. Okay, well, that's good, but okay. Yeah, I'll just put that up. I think that's good. And it should just loop right there. All right, let's start another set. Actually, just give me one more minute. I'm going to go grab another glass of water. But we'll get started on another set. Start drawing now. Okay, so how much time we got? Okay, we're gonna have a 20-minute set, then we'll have another 20-minute set. And we'll see where we are from there, because I have a play date at 8 p.m. with some game devs. But I'm gonna reset the timer on that pose. We might do like one more set that's like a really short mini set, like 5 or 10-minute set or something. Oh yeah, I was gonna put it on. Let's do 3-minute poses, or 3-minute, yeah, 3-minute poses. We'll try that. Or actually, I think going to 5s right now would be better. So then we can really pick and choose our poses, and then like really try to play with pushing and exaggerating that. Maybe take multiple cracks at the same pose. Let me go through these real quick, and I'll pick us a good pose to play with.
Yeah, there's also it's also good because there's more time to try to imagine what the entire motion looks like. I think that would be good.
I'm hopefully going to see if I can try to find something that's a little bit kind of like profile view. And that I'm gonna scan through these until I can find something that really sticks out to me as something that I could play with exaggerating. I kind of want to play with this one. We'll maybe do this one. Alright, I'll give this one 5 minutes. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds. Okay.
20 minutes and 30 seconds. And that's starting now.
Jesus Christ, you're killing me, Google. How many times has Google killed me? That's what I want to know.
Over 9,000.
Clearly not enough then.
It was funny because earlier it was almost like she was pretending not to hear you until you mentioned Alexa, and then suddenly
She's
she
lagging
heard
this
you.
evening for some reason. Yeah. It's like, oh no. You're not going to that, harlot. But you can see on this there's like there's depth cues in that pose. Of like the fun of freehand perspective is it doesn't need to be accurate perspective, because we're not really like measuring out our vanishing points with inaccuracy and stuff. We're just trying to get like an impression of three-dimensionality in the pose. Anyway, where I was going with talking about Neil Gaiman was he talks a lot about like emotional honesty in your work. Like you don't want to early on when he started out, he tried to imitate other authors, and his early work like sounded like he went back and read some of his early work that never got published, and it just sounds like an imitation of other authors. Like his own voice doesn't really come through. And then like at the very end of this one unpublished manuscript, back when he was like learning how to write stuff, like at the very end, in the last like page and a half, it starts to sound like Neil, like how that sounds like my voice when he was reading it, when he was rereading it again years later. Like, so his point is that like you can't really like try to imitate like what others do. You can learn technique and stuff, but you can't like beat someone over the head with an emotion, with like, you're supposed to react to my work this way, or you're supposed to I'm supposed to say things this way or something because like this other author said it this way. kind of the same way with art. Like, you have to be emotionally honest with how you feel about what you're doing or what you're drawing. And that holds true for drawing and art, and definitely for gesture drawing. Like, if you're trying to exaggerate a pose, you might have in the back of your head, like, some kind of an idea of a pose that you've seen some other artist draw. And you can kind of play with that sometimes, but play with that for some ideas, but it's gonna ring hollow if you do that. If you do that without, like, you injecting your own emotional reaction to the pose or something. Like, so that's, but it takes practice to tap into that. So you need kind of like breathing space to like play with something, to see how it ticks and see how it breaks, whether it be art or whether it be a piece of writing, so you can find your own voice. So you have to give yourself permission to fuck up. Like, you're not going to find your own voice by not seeing what works and what doesn't. Like Neil said that when he made his most improvements when he realized, oh, you're supposed to write lots of bad fiction in order to learn how to write good fiction. In that you have to kind of like write it, just jump right in and go for it. See if it works, figure out what's working, what doesn't work, revise, try again if stuff isn't working, tap into something deeper, and so on. So what I did here is, this is just kind of a warm-up of me trying to do iterative posing now to try to push the exaggeration. I'm going to use a different pose than that. So let's maybe use this dude.
Yeah, adding something about what you were saying about Neo. I remember hearing Stephen King in an interview saying that Notebook was full of bad stories that were never meant to be published, just meant to be like writing down bad ideas.
Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking fourth dimensionally about this. I'm thinking like this kick is a back-ended like aerial roundhouse kick or something. Whoops. That's what it kind of looks and feels like to me from what I'm seeing here. So I'm making like a little kind of like, you can use that kind of little like arc lines or tracing lines or whatever, kind of like, or motion lines or whatever you want to kind of indicate where you think the motion is going when you are thinking about stuff fourth dimensionally. When you draw these. Also, another thing, you will find that when you exaggerate, like, if you start getting fluent with exaggerating, you'll start getting stuff that looks more like what the pose is actually doing than if, like, and I mentioned this earlier, than if you just like straight up tried to just copy literally what's happening up there. And as I said earlier, it's because you're playing with like the underlying forces of the pose. You're caricaturing the action. Because like just replicating the light that you're seeing that's hitting your eye isn't enough. There's like this mental processing going on in your head to kind of read and understand and make sense of the action that's happening when you look at the pose. And so therefore, when you're drawing the pose and you're trying to create an illusion of movement, it isn't just about copying it, it's about looking for opportunities to like push the impression of those forces. You almost have to like kind of overdo what reality serves you in photographs, just to make it feel like it has more impact, or to like raise its temperature a bit, because the boiling point of a drawing having the same sense of force as looking at the photograph is a little bit higher. So I did a slight bit of exaggeration on this pose, and I also like did a fourth dimensional thinking line right there. I'm gonna maybe cap this off by adding like a 3D segment to the knee. I'm actually going to move ahead to the next pose. I think 3 minutes might be the sweet spot for doing these. So I'm going to dip out of this pose, and I'm going to set us up with 3 minutes. I'm going to leave it at 3 minutes, but if like there's a pose that I feel we should dwell on with extra time, then I'll just rewind it or whatever. Rewind it or reset the timer. So look at this, like depth cues, depth cues and direction cues and stuff. There's depth cues on that floor, where the feet are placed, where the floor grid, the grid of the floor is. There's the tilt of the hips right there. You can see the front of the belt right there that's indicating the direction of the hips. And in fact, like karate gis are designed to make it easier to, well, they're designed to like be loose so you can more freely practice the body mechanics of martial arts without injuring yourself. But they are also clothing that has that telegraphs clothing that telegraphs what direction your limbs are pointing in or facing in, with the oversized cuffs that they have on them, the belt, even the front of the gi. Everything kind of works in sync, like telegraphing you what direction parts of the body are facing. So I kind of went on autopilot in this pose, so this pose looks kind of stodgy. So I'm going to maybe, I'm a little disappointed in that, so I'm going to maybe go back in and see what I can do, really pushing it. Maybe going beyond a bit what the actual pose is. I think we will spend a little bit extra time on this pose because I want to see if I can pull something out of here that's a little bit more interesting. Slow opacity on this. It's okay to do iterative drawing like this during a set. Like if you see an opportunity to draw over something and push it more, or fix something that you weren't satisfied with, you should go for it. You can even like take time off from doing the next drawing to get into that. And maybe goes for something that's a little bit more contained than the red I drew right there. That's a little better. Now I'm going to go back in and add some additional darkening to the underside of certain things to make them pop before I move on. Got like another minute on this pose. So I got something that's a little bit more serviceable, I would say. Probably take that even further if I was going to dwell on it more, but I want to move on to another pose. Also, terribly sorry I'm not using Magma Studio this evening, because, well, sometimes we'll use it, sometimes we won't. It's just how it'll be. I'm feeling like tonight should not be a Magma Studio night for whatever reason. But future ones will be. Maybe this Friday. Yeah, definitely this Friday. We'll definitely do Make Friday Magma Studio Day. But anyway, yeah, look, you can, like, if you do drawers like that, you can just separate them and then show like your progression of trying to push it a bit more. See what you did wrong, what you pushed further that worked a little better. All right, so this dude here, I believe I might have drawn him before, but something almost kind of mystical about this guy's pose. So how could I exaggerate it a bit? You can see like there's this rhythmic sense of the pose in this case being an overall unit. You can really feel it in the legs here. Look at how like the legs are correlating to each other there. So I got those bottom of the soles of the feet there, of the shoes. The underside of the pants cuff. This one's kind of capping down over it there, but you can see the underside of the pants cuff here. Next week, I think we are doing extrapolation, which extrapolation is extrapolating a pose or an idea onto often a very wildly different character. So next week, I actually want... What the fuck? It's interesting post. And this suck. Is this a scam? Well, I mean, if you just tried doing figure drawing once, then you're not going to get any better overnight. I think that person is joking. I'm not sure who is being scammed, because this is free, but... You did the blob thing? I'm not sure what you mean by blob thing. Chuck Jones says that you have about like 1 million terrible drawings to get, or 1 million terrible drawings to get out of your pencil, so you can get, so you can let the good drawings flow out a lot easier. So you are going to be inherently getting a lot of really shitty drawings out of your system by doing a lot of art practice. And by a lot, I mean a freaking lot. Yeah. You can't just, like, you know, watch football for a while and then just, like, try like running out onto the field and grabbing the ball, and then you get tackled and you can't just stop there. I mean, you gotta do weight training, sports conditioning, and stuff. You gotta learn how to play. You gotta put the pieces together. You gotta practice games with others. This is a really pleasant pose right here. Okay, Google, stop. You don't know how long I stared at the blank screen. I guess you were working at the guts to actually draw and you didn't, or something? I don't know what you're trying to say with that. So it is break, but I really like this Kobe Bryant pose. So I'm just playing with it right now. I don't think they're. I don't think that that person's being serious. I think they're just joking. Trying to make some kind of a joke about, like, people who don't practice but who expect results on the first try or something, I'm guessing. And I just kind of wanted to vibe with the rhythms of that pose a little bit. So, that was pretty fun. Got another set under our belts. Okay, Google, set timer for 5 minutes.
5 minutes, and we're starting now.
Okay, Google, add 4 minutes to the timer.
Done. 4 minutes added to your 5-minute timer. You've got 8 minutes and 59 seconds remaining.
Yeah, that's what I thought, Buried Animal. It was just an awkward attempt at humor, that's all. It came off a little abrasive initially, but I mean, like, I instantly kind of, like, caught on. Oh, yeah, they're just cracking a joke about practicing one, like, trying to draw just once and expecting results.
Sometimes it's hard to tell because there are people who genuinely.
Yeah, there are people. Yeah, there are people who are, and sometimes like an attempt at, like, ironic humor kind of misfires a bit. It's just awkwardly delivered or something. Doesn't matter. I kind of caught on to what you're doing, but you know, it's kind of weird. I don't normally get comments like that in here, so I'm not used to it. It didn't help when it capitalized. It sucked. Well, you know, sarcasm doesn't travel the internet, and sometimes it takes like 1 or 2 reads to kind of... Is this person being serious, or are they joking? Stuff. I wasn't too worried, though. I kind of figured it was a joke from the get-go, but... In any case, it's an opportunity to talk about ethics and practicing and stuff. Never... Then I can use your devil's advocate to tell people a little bit about the work ethic. Or the practice ethos. Yeah, you should have freedom to play with it and have fun with it. You'll come up with your own sense of the rhythms and stuff. You should be free to break it, and if it breaks, well, you have another try. You can try it again. You can try to fix it. You could try to reel it back in, or you could maybe, oh shit, I broke it. Well, you know, maybe break it some more. Break it even more. There's stuff that just like gets really, really wild with how much it breaks stuff, and sometimes breaking stuff in really, really fun ways is pretty damn cool. But it's like, it's kind of a thing where like you can break the rules much more effectively when you understand the rules. Like, there's lots of stuff with like really, really warped fake perspective, but that's like by people who understand perspective really well, for example. I use a really heavily exaggerated, like quick loose sketch pose, but this one right here, I threw this together to show an example of like I can potentially play with exaggeration. Like you really, really make that hand big. You really make that limb back there small, stuff. You can play with it even more than how I have. Like, well, I don't know. Let's see here. Itty bitty head here. Something that looks like a Skechers binder folder from the 90s or something. Or like you have like giant ass limbs in the foreground or something. If there's any kind of like 90s like throwback thing I want there to be, I think that airbrushed binder art of like really, really wild poses and stuff is something I'd like to see come back more. Not that there's any shortage of really like wildly exaggerated stuff, but here, let me see if I can find some examples of what I'm talking about. Ah, here we go. Mead sports folders. Sports folders and backpacks. Here, check this out. Like, there's a lot of like this 90s folder art that's airbrushed. Some of it's more cartoony, some of it's more on the realistic side, but it's like really warped, like this. This really, really warped, goofy stuff, like playing with depth cues like crazy and exaggeration and stuff. Like you'd see like warped kind of fake fisheye on this picture. See how huge that kid's hand is in the foreground, and so on. And this kind of warpy stuff is happening all over the place in a lot of Sakuga animation. Because it's all based on the same rules, after all. This is more cartoony. This is more kind of... it's more kind of like a cartoon illustration, but it's still kind of based on the same sort of stuff. That's a really wild one. Look at that, like how huge that newspaper is in the foreground there. But these are great to look at for sure, for like how you can really push and play with stuff, and like it's so warped and the perspective is so warped and exaggerated that it like creates that they created this massive like warpy distorted rhythm for the ground that's like warping all the way down here, and this this kid's feet planted on like following the logic of that warped sidewalk. No rules. Yeah. It's cool too, because like this is like how this is like does a good job of like almost like conveying how it feels to be in the zone. As like it follows a skateboarder in this case, or as an athlete or something. There's some more cartoony ones. These are really fun though. Look at how that crazy that is. This is like more in the area of how you can like play with exaggerating the cartoon proportions of characters and or figures in the figure drawing sessions. Warped and bent perspective. You can see how like the perspective lines are all bent, but they're all like following the same like flow. There's like a vanishing point, a curved vanishing. All these lines are curving towards a vanishing point, like centering around this guy's foot or around over here, where he's gonna be like directing the blow there against the wall. He's doing shadow kickboxing, I guess. Yeah. I think those are piranhas right there. I really like that mad scientist kid with the goggles there. It's actually one of my favorites of this art. So this one was for a Levi's ad, sadly, not for a binder folder, it looks like. Okay, Google, stop. Alright, we're gonna do another 20-minute set. Let's see what we can do playing with this kind of warpy, exaggerated play with stuff. We'll just vibe with it and stuff. It's gonna take time for like this kind of stuff to sink in and for us to really vibe with it, but this is like a chance to really kind of meditate on it and get some of it into our bloodstream. And likewise, like those really warpy images we saw, they are examples of like thinking of the poses not just three-dimensionally but fourth-dimensionally. Like, it isn't just about animation; it's about capturing the sense of the motion and the momentum in a single image. So you can kind of see where you can kind of detect where it looks like those poses are going. If I don't have headphones on, you end up setting 5 timers on my Google Home. Oh god, yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, folks. Maybe I can use a custom timer on Alexa or something. A custom named command for Alexa, so I don't think I can do that with Google. And then we won't have to worry about me setting off everyone's Google Home if they're playing me on speakers. Well, okay. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes, 30 seconds.
"20 minutes and 30 seconds. And we're starting now."
Cool. Very nice. Alright, so we get another 3-minute pose here of these two fencers. Can create a drama between the two of them, maybe. I'm gonna try to do something. I'm just gonna like try to buzz through this really quickly. Because I'm not trying to like just like slavishly copy what's going on there. I'm just trying to get my funny, playful cartoon impression of what's going on here. I'm gonna look for opportunities to kind of play with it a bit. Yeah, round 2 of what we did tonight will be on Friday. And technically round 3 will be Saturday, because the direction that my Saturday classes are moving in lately is more of this kind of stuff, but I want to see this Saturday of how we can direct it into storyboarding and possibly some light animation stuff. But Saturday we'll be doing more stuff exactly like this. More time poses and so on, but I want to see about us directing it in a more like storyboard / animation oriented direction, where we might actually be working sequentially, like on a timeline or something. So have like some kind of animation app for that, I think. I think what I can do with this is maybe I can knock this back a little bit, because I'm a little bit kind of... So make his torso really small. Decided to make the thrust of his pose look more like this. So I have this down, and I'm gonna maybe, instead of work on, what the fuck? 2 poses. Alright, so feel free to keep work on this pose, but I have this down, and that's enough information to kind of roughed in for me to kind of play with it, to kind of design something while the memory is still fresh. So I'm gonna do that. What I'm doing now is something that I did last week a bit. I think I did some of this week too. No, last week. And we're gonna be doing way more of this too, especially during the extrapolation week next week. When you kind of get like the scribbly energy down of trying to work out the nervous energy of the pose and push the basic like core underlying idea that you're trying to go for. And so it can be inherently messy if you want it to be, to kind of push things and stuff. And then you just lower opacity on it, or knock it back with a eraser or something, or take another colored line, go over it again, try to pick out like cartoon characters out of it or something. So I've been talking about depth cues, but other cues that you can work with involve story and exaggeration. And those often use things like outfit cues. In this case, for example, I'm using an outfit cue, but these are fencing masks right here. In this case, an obvious cue of the soccer ball right there. When you do these like kind of loose gestural, exaggerated poses, you're just trying to kind of vibe with something you're seeing there. And vibe with it quickly. So I got that really loose gestural first impression down. So that's going to give me enough to kind of play with something. So I'm going to go in and maybe tie down some ideas further here on the second pass. It's an opportunity to try the wrapping lines here. Maybe play some rhythms going up the body here. And like I said, I want people to pay really close attention to where the inertia of the pose is. Like, so this lady right here, this is caught mid-action. So it looks like she's kicking her leg up to kick the ball. Her lower body has like more of a drift to it going on. So it's a little, it's her lower, the body as it appears in the lower part of the frame and stuff has like kind of a more of a free, floaty feel to it. Her inertia is going, I presume her inertia is going a little bit this way, upwards, kind of. Like, I presume she's traveling that way, but like doing a flip to using the flip and using the fulcrum of the flip to kick the ball out of the air. Anyway, that's enough. That's all I'm gonna spend on that pose because I'm pretty satisfied with the gesture I got out of that. I'm gonna play with that lady back there because she's doing some really interesting things. Let me see if I can vibe with what's going on there. So we got these really like playful rhythms going on with her body that you can really do some goofy things with. She almost looks like a cartoon character with how she's posed. It's pretty great. It almost looks like because of the silhouette, like it looks like her foot is almost bent back the other way and in some kind of weird cartoon distortion thing, but like her foot is actually like right there. But my initial read on it made it almost feel like her foot was kind of doing some really goofy thing back the other way. Some weird broken joint shit going on there, which you'll sometimes see in animation in-betweens or smears. Really exaggerated smears. That's the other thing. Like a lot of these drawings that we're doing this evening are almost kind of like animations. We should maybe think in those terms. Like some of what we're drawing tonight are basically like still images of animation smears, if you really want to get extreme with them. So there will be more studying tomorrow in my Discord. Oh, also you can do the correlating limbs thing together with parts of the hair too, because really anything that has volume that occupies 3D space, you can correlate things in that 3D space to each other. It's just that with the case of limbs, like they have a range of motion off the body, so they like correlate to each other within that range of motion. But if you see an opportunity to do it, like for some hair that's hanging on either side of the head, for example, you can do that. This is a very JoJo looking pose, isn't it? It's got great rhythm to it. So let's play with it some. This is a really fun pose, and I think we should spend some extra time on it. Okay, so that's my initial impression of the pose. Let's see what I can do with it now, pushing it a little more here. Playing with it some more. Going beyond a little bit of what I initially got down. Maybe make his waist smaller. I do really like this pose, and I think there's some possibilities to do even more stuff with this for sure. But I'm gonna try to vibe with it with what I got right now. Alright, so look for those depth cues. We're going to spend a little extra time on this guy. So now I got kind of like this overwhelming gesture of the figure. I'm going to maybe try to insert some depth cues in here. So we got chest and the shoulders there. We got kind of like this volume opening up on the front of the hoodie here. Top of the shoulders here. Now that I see it, like his arm is kind of bent here, so it's foreshortening a little bit more. But I kind of feel like this pose works better if that back arm is like more straight. Maybe try flipping it and see what I can do. Like, just thicken the line that I have to work with. Shrink the hips even more. Make the thighs thinner. Give them kind of like a bell bottoms effect. Beef up the size of the feet. We got something a little bit like a Motor City character now. Square off the shoulder. Get some rings around there for fabric a little bit. When you're trying to find a character in this cloud of noise, it's okay to get messy. So you'll just keep iterating on whatever you're trying to go for and playing with it. Let's get to a pose we haven't done yet. I'll leave that one on there for you guys, but I'm going to continue with doing this guy here. So when you have like this gesture, this wild, loose gesture down, like that's a lot of energy on the page. And then you can kind of slow down and think about what direction stuff is actually going a little bit more and how you break down the shapes in 3D space a little bit more well thought out. But you need to give yourself permission to kind of go wild with it first. Because it's like, oh, trust me, it'll be good. So see, what you get out of doing like figure studies like these is you can use them as starting points for ideas for drawings and stuff. Like, feel free to take like stuff you've done from sessions like these and then like work them up into characters for your own purposes later. Gonna pause it on these two here. How much time we got? 7:35. Well, cool. Maybe that'll be enough time for me to look at chat and see what people have done. I really enjoyed this session tonight. This was a good cap off to a very, very extremely productive day. So this was my practice diary. Let me just show you my practice diary for today of everything that I did. That was last night, last night.
I really like this session as well.
Yeah, it was really fun. That was last
My
night.
first drawings and my last ones look quite different, and I think that's a good thing.
Last night. You'll be seeing more of this guy that I'm trying to develop. This was from last night, but this goblin character named Stab. I have some very extremely violent animation involved with him. Animation ideas for a story involved with him. He's kind of a mutant goblin that has like kind of tree frog abilities. Goblin assassin. Yeah, let's see here. Where does the start point? Yeah, for today's practice. Oh yeah, actually, it begins everything after here, I think. Yeah. This was today. This was today. Yeah, this was definitely today. This was today. This was also today. Oh yeah, some of the ideas I have, there's a bunch of other fantasy characters in this world that I'm messing with. One of them is a dryad sniper whose sniper rifle is her tree. A vampire giant. And some other things like this kind of one-armed elf swordsman with a mechanical half of his body. Some other stuff for today, like, okay, so everything after this point here is today. So like all these filters on upwards is today.
Damn. There is a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. This is my favorite. This is my favorite page today because like I did this kind of effortlessly, and with a little bit more insight into how figures work without any anxiety or self-consciousness about it. This is my personal favorite of the pages today. Yeah, you're gonna be seeing some more of this guy. I'm gonna be developing like a storyboard and some animations with him as I figure out what his character design is and stuff. I kind of like where I'm going with this kind of hunchback look that I've got going on with him now. Alright, let's take a look at what people are doing in chat. Here. People have posted stuff. Oh, that's really nice. Let's go here. Alright. So, Nick Walk, I would say that you want to start pulling really, really long strokes. And you want to be drawing from your shoulder, not from your wrist. These are very chicken scratchy. You want to be pulling nice long strokes, even if like you're drawing a lot. Like a lot of if you're drawing really sketchy, you want to be trying to draw with confidence. So these are, I do see some. This is got a nice sweep to it and stuff, but there's a lot of stuff like where you're kind of struggling with how stuff works three-dimensionally. And I would say that aside from in addition to like continuing to do gesture drawing and stuff, I would say check out the like the Drawbox website and start working through their drills there, because you'll work yourself up into doing perspective drills and cube studies. You want to start getting like cultivating a general sense of three-dimensionality, so you can apply it to your gestures, because these are looking fairly flat, although I do see you trying some depth cues in there, so like on the underside of that cuff, for example. But I want us to get like a kind of a sense that like some of these have some sort of an implied vanishing point to them and stuff if possible. These are pretty fun. These are nice and rhythmical, simple. There's confidence to them. I really like these. XE added a ground plane, so this is a really good job. This is a nice page. There's some stuff here and there that I think could be clear and pushed upon. Like it kind of loses me here a little bit. Like I don't feel the rhythm quite works as well. I do like that you tried making this like smaller and that like larger, and you did use like some depth cues and stuff, but I think it's kind of losing it a little bit for me. This pose works really, really nice. This is really nicely pushed, really nice and rhythmical. This is how I wish I would be drawing if I was vibing more, and this is nicely exaggerated. That's very important. You pulled off exaggeration a lot better than I did this evening in a lot of ways. These are really nicely pushed, very nice. You turn them into cartoon character poses very successfully. I was kind of exhausted, so I wasn't pushing things as much. But Gus, of course, you saw the Alex Wu thing that we were looking at, right?
Yeah, I'm taking the course myself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that would explain it. Alex is referencing the same stuff that I'm studying for these, so they actually know how to push this stuff. Of course, I have pushed stuff about this far before when I'm like in better kind of overall kind of condition, or depending on what the vibe of the moment is. So I'm not worried about getting back up to there myself at some point. We just got to keep going. Okay, so these are pretty chicken scratchy, Gus, but there is some sense of thrust. I do see there's like some sense of three-dimensionality to the gesture that's going on here a little bit. I'm seeing it happen a little bit in the knees. I think this calf is a little long, but I think this could be fixed by like extending the leg down a bit. But there is a sense that the rhythm going on here. I think maybe putting the foot up there would make it work a little better. But I do see you starting to kind of struggle with the right things. I want to see you try to push more confident lines, because I see a lot of start-stoppy, chicken scratchy looking stuff here. You want to try to aim for pulling a lot longer strokes with your stuff, if you can help it. Try to avoid chicken scratches. I'm not saying it's okay to be sketchy, especially for an animator. But yeah, try to avoid the chicken scratch. You want to push your confidence. But you did. This is good. I'm seeing you improve. No, Agonema. I'm seeing you improve every time I see your stuff. Yeah, these are these are very heavy on the cartoon side. Some of these do some fun things, like some fun express. I mean, feel free to turn them into simple cartoon characters and stuff. I do see a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of twinning happening in some of these poses, where there's like stuff is way too symmetrical, and what's happening, like these knees are too symmetrical. Hand poses are way too symmetrical. You can vary those up by changing, like for example, the angle of that knee a little bit, or like tucking them in together a little bit closer or something. Or you can like widen those apart and have that one going at that angle and this one going at a slightly different angle. I mean, I see you playing with stuff. I think you need more observational figure drawing in general, but it's neat to see you try to like cartoon the figures and stuff. Yeah, there's some perspective cues going on here for sure. It's not the best perspective, this shot, by the way, but they are happening, and you can kind of see them like on the underside of the mecha over there. That's a really, really nice, bold pose. Maybe really making a really bold statement. Really good job, Gus. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing from you. These are nice. Yeah, I'm seeing floor grids. This one guy's like he's about to fall over backwards a little bit, but I see you playing with the right things and stuff. Like try to adjust to the sense of balance. Like, why does this guy look like he's trying to fall over backwards? What could I address on it to fix that? Maybe the foot could be posed a little bit more over here. No, not quite. Oh, what's happening here? I'd have to adjust it. Maybe it's a little top heavy leaning back over that way. Maybe like what's taking the weight here? Maybe there's some other kind of curve that can be added over here to lean the pose over that way to make it look more balanced. Or maybe like there's like something else is taking the weight in the legs or something. But anyway, so yeah, this is really nice thrusty action. This one kind of gets a little bit confused, I think. This area is working okay, but then like it gets really confused in the legs. Like it starts getting really, really flat and flimsy. But you want to make more clearer decisions if you can. This is really a lot more. I think that's a consequence of this being a really complex pose area. So that's where you want to kind of use that strategy of like unifying the area. Let me see if I can find. Let me see how I pulled it off. When that pose came up for me. Here we go. So yeah, actually, I did get a little bit confused too, but there's enough information here in here for me to extrapolate what I did to make it work. Oh god, I think I might be losing my voice. Oh shit.
Get some water, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. I just need some water. I've been talking for a good portion of the day. I just need some. Yeah, I need some water, definitely. Dry mouth and shit. That's a fun invented pose right there. So the other thing is that you want to like start playing with your puppets, and as you start like doing figure invention on your own, with like these kind of 3D dimensional puppets of gesture and stuff. You want to freely play with like making cool, interesting poses, kind of playing with the visual library that's growing in your head. Different figures. Wow, we got through a lot of really fun poses. I'm looking at these in hindsight. I was worried, am I kind of lacking in confidence of where I'm going this evening? But looking back at these, there's a lot of really good energy in them. So I think I'm really happy with how things have turned out tonight. I really like how some of these turned out. One thing I will point out is that I really need to dig into doing fabric studies, because I keep trying to fake it with just kind of like amorphous shapes or wrapping stuff over the forms. There is a specific flow to fabric, and same thing with also like hair and stuff. So at some point we're gonna have to do some kind of specialized thing on fabric. But for now, like just for recording the gesture of a pose and stuff, this is fine. So yeah, good session. Normally I would, after class, screen something fun in the Discord for us, like a film or TV show or something like that. But this evening I've got a play date with some game devs, so I'm going to be trying to see if I can get in on that. But if for whatever reason I'm not able to do that, stick around in the classroom or be on standby. Oh, I want to do one quick plug before I head out of here. So in my Discord, there's a special section called the Super Space Cadet sector. In here, there's a button here that you can use to, if we click it, you can opt in and become you get the Super Space Cadets role, which is an opt-in, opt-out role. You opt in by clicking this and opt out by clicking it again. You can opt in and opt out as much as you want. But basically, like, I want people who have this role to leave the server, to try to leave the server unmuted. because this server I will be like pinging it a little bit more frequently than the regular Space Cadets ping. Today I pinged the Space Cadets ping like more than I usually do. Because there was like a special thing going on today where I needed to kind of get people's attention regarding something that we're going to be using in the near future, maybe tomorrow, which is the Art Nude study section, which you need to request access of in here. For now we're just going to try to manually get in people. If we don't get you, and you see us in here, and you want to participate, just buzz us. Buzz us when you see us running the set. When you see us running the session, we'll try to get through as many people as we can in here to add them. Like for example, let's see, value right here. I'm gonna add them. Roles, vetted 18 plus user right there. So just come in here and just state your age. Yeah, like this person said I'm young, so yeah, I can't accept that. So delete. State your age. You have to be 18 or older. Just state your age. I just need to like state your age here. Like obviously someone could probably lie about their age, but please don't. If you are younger than 18, please do not participate in the art nude sections. You're not supposed to do that. But this is so we just know what age you are, or at least what your stated age is, so that you can participate. And again, I cannot stress enough, do not participate unless you're 18 or older. But that will be where we will be studying art nudes in the near future. Oh, this is fun. Yeah, just pushing that line of action. Gus is doing some really good shit.
This is the thing I was trying to say, trying to imagine what the movement would be before. It's quite challenging.
Yes. No, yeah, it is.
But it does help to kind of think of the spine as like a spring. Like it stores energy and then it releases in the opposite direction.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you're playing with the right ideas, and we'll keep meditating on those ideas because like it's gonna take continual practice and stuff, and like there's just so much complicated stuff that we're gonna be layering into this. We're gonna be at some point getting more into structure with like 3D, more like kind of more thought out 3D shapes and stuff. Our gesture is going to probably suffer just a little bit when we do that because we won't be able to play as freely with it, but we'll be getting more kind of solidity to our drawings that way. I mean, and same thing with like we're going to be dipping more into anatomy in the future too, of course. But it's like any subject you study in art, it's like spinning plates where like when one of them kind of wobbles, you got to run over to it and then like spin it up again, and then another one wobbles, you got to run over it and spin it up again. But there's kind of like a progression curve where they start spinning more effectively and more effectively and more effectively, and you have to spend less time running over to each of the plates to spin them over time, so to speak. Yeah, these are fun. I'm really happy with like how I really am seeing a tremendous amount of progress in a lot of folks here since they've since I've been here, and of course Gus is really hitting it out of the ballpark tonight, I would say. Not least of which because they have the Alex Wu gesture drawing schoolism class, which is what I'm referencing for what I'm trying to.
It does help a lot. I recommend it.
These are really nice, Gus. I would actually want to confer with you a little bit because I think I need to vibe a little bit more with some how you're approaching things too. Yeah, because I'm starting to get like in my own kind of like sketchy nervousness lately. I've been kind of getting a little bit more tangled and overcomplicated than I should. So maybe paying attention to something more simple and confident like you're approaching it with would be a good idea. Well, anyway, I better shut down the stream because I've got a play that I've got to run to. So let me move this off screen so I can just check to see if I'm not too late to get in on that. Yeah, it looks like they haven't started yet, so I'll Yeah, I'll pop out. Thank you all for coming. We
Yeah,
will
thanks for the
we will be
class, man.
yeah we will be practicing again during the day tomorrow. For anyone who wants to come by the Discord, I'll be doing another ninja body split with Astropug, so I can be in both in my Discord and Ethan's Discord or anywhere else that I'm in. Because I want to use that ninja splitting technique to be in the voice chats of both servers. So if people want to hang out in both in either or place, they can hang out either or. And so yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow and for Friday's class, where we'll be doing a redux and another iteration of exactly what we did tonight, plus additional little bells and whistles, be more hitting of the art gem. And then Saturday, I'm still strategizing what we're going to do. Saturday is probably going to be more of this, but again, I want to push things more in an animator and storyboard oriented direction for Saturday. So we'll see about that. All right, so toodles. Bye-bye.